The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color is not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice and patient and continue to pray. In 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
Hello. It's Monday. I don't like Mondays. So let's talk about Trump. Well, not just Trump. Let's talk about Trump's legal issues. Because I don't want to talk about Trump unless it's something legal. Hey, Charlie, be safe. I heard it's getting pretty bad down there. Yes, I did. So be very safe. Yes, everyone. In where the storms are brewing currently. Even here, we are brewing up in Northeast and here on the East Coast also. That is going to be hitting through tomorrow and Wednesday, like from what I heard. Well, that's nothing like tornadoes that you guys get down there. Be safe. Yeah. Welcome everybody in the chat. Look at that. I impressed Mark Caesar right from the start. Too bad it was just my banner skill. Yeah, I pushed a button. Look at that. Nobody said anything. But listen, I've got a slight problem in regards to covering all of these cases in regards to Trump, both civil and criminal. We're going to go into. When I say all of them, I mean all of them. We had two that are already settled. We have E.G. and Carroll, and we also have the New York civil case for fraud that I want to go over because we covered all of that up to just about to verdict. In the last time we spoke about the E.G. and Carroll case against Trump, Judge Engeron had not, Judge Kaplan rather, had not done the final accepting and all of that. And there was, of course, the fines to be paid and things like that. And of course, we got appeals to talk about and, yada, yada, yada. But basically, we've got 6 cases. And there's no way we're going to be able to do them all in one session because as much as I love to talk and I can talk fast, I could not possibly get it covered properly with giving you all the chance to ask questions and your input and all of that in a timely manner. So I decided to break it up into 2. I'm going to do it tonight and tomorrow night. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you guys in the chat, if we did 3 tonight, which are the ones you're most interested in? And you don't have to say all 3. Just give me one to start with and we'll go from there. Because I can put this presentation, which by the way is like 58 slides. Just to give you some perspective on that, on what's been going on with all of these cases. The last time we spoke, which was about 3 months ago in regards to Trump, I did a political review on all the Trump cases at that time. I only had 18 slides. And it covered all 6 cases with 18 slides. Now we're at 58. Okay. It's like a lot of crap going on. All right. So please, someone help me out and just tell me if you'd like. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, start at the start, wherever this presentation is. But I'll give you a minute. I know you guys are overwhelmed with the fact that I put the banner up, but still. I want to see a quick update on Murdaugh following his lie detector test. I can tell you what happened with Murdaugh. I'll give you that quick update right now. Right now. Murdaugh was just sentenced to another 40 years. Yes, he was. Judge Gregory, yep, federal concurrent to run. He's in there for life. It doesn't matter if they get a new trial for the murder or not. The financial crimes have sunk his butt. Him being caught telling lies with the lie detector test and also perjuring himself kind of made his federal deal moot. In his plea deal that he did with them, it just came off the table. They also knew that they were messed up. They knew they were messed up because they agreed with the FBI to just take all the motions off the table, and the judge did the sentencing today. And so that's it. He is locked up. That's it. There's no appealing on this. This was part of the plea deal. Like, he had already pled guilty. There's nothing they're going to be able to do. There's nothing that I could see that they can appeal about. But hey, I don't know everything about this kind of stuff. But based on the tenacity, the audacity of that defense team and Murdaugh himself, I wouldn't put it past him to try to appeal again. He lied about lying, Mark. He lies and then lies on lies on lies. He lies actually for no good reason. To lie and get your federal, like, he wanted federal prison because it was comfortable. But now he gets to serve his federal sentence while he's serving his state sentence, which means he's in state prison. He's not getting out. Hey, Wilding, nice to see you. Nice to see you. But anyway, he's not getting out for any time soon. And thanks for bringing that to my attention, Mark. Like, I did follow up on everything, and I actually posted about it as soon as the sentencing happened on my community tab, because I knew I wasn't going to do a whole separate section on it. Okay. All right. So, Mark, I took care of that. Okay. So, yep. I want to see a quick update on Murdaugh. Yep. Got that. Thank you very much, Fish Nerd, for noticing that I remembered the batter. Yeah. Oh, go have a nap there. If you need a nap, you need a nap. Yeah, he lied and lied and lied. Yep. He had lied and he set himself on his. Yes, he has. I mean, you know what? He absolutely made this problem worse for himself. Okay. All right. So now nobody has said which Trump case they want first. So, yeah. Isn't it an amazing name, Charlie? I love her name. And for all of those who don't know, Wilding Darlings does reads on YouTube that are exquisite. She picks out some really good ones. You haven't heard of these these authors, these poets. She does an excellent job. I like her stuff. I do. All right. It's a great, it is. Okay. So I'm going to start then with the one with the big fine. Let's start. Yeah. Oh, are you kidding, Welding? I really do enjoy it. I read myself, and I loved Omegon's readings. That's how I found him, and I like his snarky humor. That's how I found your channel too, over there, and it encouraged me to actually do my own reads and all, because you guys are so awesome about everything. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get this ball rolling in regards to cases. Why don't we just start with Letitia James's New York civil case, not criminal. This was a civil fraud case against Trump's officials, including Weisberg and the accountants, Weisselman, the accountants, his sons, everybody that was a CEO, the trust, the companies, all of it. Okay. Letitia James filed this back in 2022. Um, After they had shown the evidence, told them what they had on them after years of investigation. Okay. Anyone who's been following anything in regards to the Trump career trajectory, like could we call it that, or his like business affiliations or whatever, or aspirations or whatever when you call them, the building of this Trump real estate empire. Here on the East Coast, there have been problems and lawsuits with the state of New York and with individuals all throughout his career. To say that this was politically motivated to keep him out of office would be a misnomer, because we're talking about a 30-year history here where he doesn't look good at all. Okay. And people that delve into it know this. If you just scratch the surface and you believe all the rhetoric, that's something. He's been a problem businessman in the way he does things, and he just thinks the rules are for everybody else and he does whatever he wants. Okay. That's been all over the place. Anywhere that he's building. I mean, just look at Scotland and the golf course, and he tried to, like, pull the wool over people's eyes about all of that. Like he does it in other countries. He does it everywhere. He's doing his investments, everything. Well, basically, this lawsuit was about defrauding the state of taxes that they were due, because he would. Here's the scenario, and I'm just going to put it in very simply. It's much more complicated, but I'm no CoffeeZilla. Okay, I will, you know, I'm not going to put up a pegboard with a million strings and like tie all this stuff together. Let's just say that Trump has a vested interest in every company that he owns, and he keeps the paper trail and he makes the decisions. And this lawsuit was about a concerted effort, an actual plan, practice and procedures, knowing it's against the regulations, to underreport real estate holdings when it came to reporting taxes, but to inflate them when it came to borrowing money from banks or using it as collateral for other investments, or to state his net worth. Okay, because like, I'm just going to make up these figures. All of the figures are tit for tat in Judge Engeron's actual final with the jury and everything. It's 92 pages when he did his summation. So, and he goes over all of it and actually why each building, each reason, the whole thing. But basically, you know, the case was about fraud, misusing the system to his own benefit, and knowing what he was doing is wrong. And that's a very important part about this. What this lawsuit set out through the trial to do was to actually show a pattern. The pattern was so evident in the evidence that was provided by Letitia James in the prosecutor's office, the district attorney's office in New York, that Judge Engeron already said they were guilty of the fraud. And the jury didn't have to decide guilt on whether they did it. They just had to decide on how much of it was worth. There was just only some parts of it that they had to actually like weigh in on. Like a lot, the evidence was actually there, straight out. There's certain parts of it could not be denied. All right. So they weren't going to, go into that part of it. This was a contentious trial, by the way. Like I was going to put fireworks up as my background. That would have been appropriate, because a lot of these cases have gotten to be uh fiery. But anyway, if you'll remember the players, we got Judge Engeron, we got Letitia James, who's the district attorney, who took a lot of heat from Trump in the social medias, and Trump supporters ripping apart her life, threats, against her, the whole department. It's not been pleasant for anybody involved with any of the trials. We'll say that. There was a gag order issued here. There was an appeal done. The appeal on the gag order was upheld. Okay. The defense put in multiple appeals. Of course, again, about, it's just prosecutorial misconduct or some of the appeals. that they're using as a repertoire for like all the cases. But in this case, they were saying that Letitia James, because she's a Democrat, she's only going against Trump and his bad business. Like she don't really care about bad business in New York, even though she very successfully has been gathering from many companies back taxes for misdeeds within the state. But let's not say that that's her platform or that's what they've been working on for years in New York. Let's just like forget all of that and put the focus on the fact that, just because it's Trump now, it's all about Trump. Yeah, like there can't be any other reason. It couldn't possibly be that the evidence actually supports that he was misdoing. I've actually seen Trump supporters and people just get on the boat to say, well, if the bank doesn't care about it, then we shouldn't care about it. Yes, we should. And I realize that some people think it's ridiculous that, oh, like when Trump actually took the stand and said everybody does it. Well, I don't really go by that because, well, so the bank doesn't care because they knew they were going to get their money from Trump. So they just disregarded the statements. They knew they were false, whatever. They didn't care. They didn't use it to make their business decision. They used his reputation. All of that might be true. But the fact that he put it down in writing and submitted it and he tried to prove it as a different way is against the law. Do we have to forget the law when we deal with Trump? Does the law not matter because Trump did it? Like, this is what drives me crazy. People are actually saying that because the bank, the bank official gave this statement in court, said, basically, we also use reputation and he was good for the money. So we really didn't look at like a fine tooth comb over all of the stuff. Just because the bank didn't do their due diligence, it's still in the bank's protocols that certain things had to be met. Okay. That doesn't really matter. The fact that they went out of their way to misrepresent their holdings is illegal. Okay. Period. Period. You don't have to suffer a major loss for it to be against the law. Nope. Ask Samuel Bankman-Fried. He's in jail and he's going to stay in jail, even though the people that he took all the money from will probably get their money back. It doesn't matter that they didn't lose the money forever. What he did was illegal. Same here. Same here. I get so frustrated. And I know I sound so soapboxy right now. And I'm sorry about that, people, but certain things like really tick me. And this is one of them. This case, to say that this case, when I know it was about business and the wrongdoing, and you know what? Here's the thing. They make it sound like you got to break the law to make money. They make it sound like you have to go against the system so you can be in the top 10% rich like these people. They have enough money to do it the right way. Sorry, I'm just one of those people that expects them to obey the law that I have to obey, just like everybody else. And that's not sour grapes. It's not because I'm jealous of all the money he has, or anything like that. It's because the law is the law. If it's there for person A, it's there for person B. It doesn't matter how much you have in the bank. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. The law's the same. This entitled crap. Anyway, he had that show. This is how he did it. This man, on his own statements for the last 30 years, has said the art of the steal. To make money, you gotta misconceive. Okay. The judge, like I said, Judge Engeron had entered a partial summary before the trial even started. And so that was only damages that the jury was deciding. This was in the New York Post as a cartoon. And the reason I put it up, not only does it make me feel better, but this is actually how it was perceived when Trump went to testify for himself in his court. Okay, John Engeron said that he could testify, but he also gave him some rules. He said, defense, the accused, Trump, has a right, Donald Trump has a right to defend himself. However, he'll do it just like everybody else. He will answer questions brought forward by his attorneys and by the prosecuting attorneys or myself. However, he declined Donald Trump being able to do a speech, which is what he wanted. He approached the judge and said, I have a statement I want to read. I want to address the jury and defend myself against all of these false claims. And John Engeron said, I'm sorry, rightly so. That part of the trial is over. We're only talking about the damages here. Whether you did it or not is not up for debate. And we don't do public relations speeches here. We answer questions. The court of law, you're going to have to follow procedure. He wasn't having it. Wasn't having it. Alina Harbour, his attorney, it was reported in the papers and by Alina Harbour herself. She started going at the judge, saying that Trump had every right to do free speech and he was being silenced. And now she was being silenced because Judge Engeron told her to sit down, to either ask her client questions that he could answer or sit down because she was interfering with the process. Well, she turned that into a whole big thing about, oh, the judge just wants to silence me. He told me to sit down disrespectfully as a woman. Like, I've never been spoken to like that. Have you ever been anywhere near Alina Harbour or heard her speak? I highly doubt nobody's ever spoken to her like that before. Seriously. You know, she's a New Jersey attorney. She's from New Jersey. For her to say nobody ever spoke to her like that, I don't know where she just bullshit. I got my hand up here. I call bullshit. Anyway, the day of these that he was doing the testimony, this is the shots they take. First of all, Judge Engeron, he did lose his cool a little. It was hard because they did everything they could to get under his skin and to push that he was being prejudiced against them, while this man was on social media with his attorneys and with help, denigrating this man, his law clerks, his family, everything to do with him, digging up anything that they can. They tried to say that, you know, that he was being just attacking him for his political views and this, that, and the other thing. This guy tried. He did get a bit testy. There were gag orders. He did tell people to sit down. He did tell people like to get their line of questioning in order. But he also did it with Letitia James's side too. Like when they were going on and on about evidence, he said, we've already done all these. Let's cut this. Let's get to this. That's already proved. Like he was being a bit like no bullshit, but they weren't having it because this particular case turned into a 3-ring circus. Like you know, the reason I wanted to show the 2 different pictures, this was before he testified or really. This is at the end of everything. Like he's aged like 10 years. I really feel for the judges. And in case, like if you did see my thumbnail, I really want to praise the judges in all of these cases right now because these cases have such a spotlight on them. No matter what these judges do or say, it gets ripped to shreds. Every single one of them, and that includes Eileen Cannon. Okay, I'm not even going to say anything bad about her. I'm going to put them all in there together and say that to be under that spotlight, that scrutiny, and still follow the law the best that you can to do what you can when every side is picking every little thing apart. They are on their game. Do you think they do not know? Like for people to say, oh, they just doing this or all no, they know exactly. Like they know they've got to play it on the up. They know everything they do is going to come up for appeal and be taken to the Supreme Court. Every single thing that gets denied on Trump's side, they try to push it up and push it up. It goes to the state and then it comes up to the Supreme Court. They're trying to push everything up as far as they can to get a favorable ruling. They appeal everything, motion after motion. I can't even tell you how many motions to dismiss are filed in all of these cases, on and on and on. It's a flagrant abuse of the system to the point that some of the judges have actually looked at the motions and sent them back and said, are you kidding me? Like you do some work here. Like I can't even, you know, it's ridiculous. It literally is. But in this one, okay, we did get a settlement. Judge Engeron ruled that in February, okay, that Trump must pay $355 million plus interest, which came up to about $464 million by the time. The calculated size of his ill-gotten gains from fraud. Fraud is fraud. And in this case, the sum of the fraud stretched into the hundreds of millions. All right, This was not a not serious case. It was civil because the state just wanted to prove that he does it over and over again, get him to stop, and to get the money that they were due back. Okay. It could have went criminal, but it is easier to prove in civil court. And I think Letitia James played it well because she got a win on the fraud and she got accountability for what was being done and she got it to stop. All right. This The case was also civil rather than criminal, so it had a lower bar of standard of proof. He also faces a 3-year ban on operating his company, and we're talking about Trump here. Trump is the officer. His son, Donald Jr., also got a ban. So did Eric. Okay. So did Alan Weissman and several others, and not even able to apply for financing loans in the state of New York. Okay. This was part of the agreement. All right. Under New York law, filing an appeal generally doesn't hold off enforcement of a judgment, but there's an automatic pause if the person or entity posts a bond covering what's owed. This is the bone of contention that came here. Trump was out there saying, if I don't pay the money, I can't appeal. That's not true. He can appeal anytime he wants in New York, and this goes for both cases. The Carroll case and this New York civil fraud case where judgments have been rendered. He can appeal them. What he can't stop is the actual state of New York, Letitia Jones, or E. Jean Carroll filing to seize assets to pay the judgment. It doesn't seize the judgment being due or owed. It didn't stop the interest from compiling. It didn't stop any of the activities that would actually get payment towards the state of New York or E. Jean Carroll. All right. Trump appealed this case. This is what's happening now on March 25th, the day he was supposed to post bond. An appeals court reduced the amount of it, the amount that he had to post for the bond, from more than $464 million to $175 million. And if that's posted by April 4th, it stops the seizing of Trump's assets while in the appeal process. It also stops the enforcement of other conditions, like the suspension of being operating in their businesses for 3 years. However, it doesn't stop the receivership. There is currently a court justice that's overseeing all the transactions in the Trump's businesses, and that is going to stay. They do get to oversee still all of that. All right. But it also, the money that the sons had to pay and the penalties on them for conducting business, everything's in appeal currently. So it stopped it temporarily while it's in appeal. The thing is, the state of New York can't get the money, but now it's guaranteed to be paid. Okay. But, it'll be guaranteed to be paid to them should he lose his appeal. Okay. At least that $175 million will immediately go. All right. But should he lose that appeal, which, let's be honest, that could take years and years. All right. It's going to be a while, but this was a win for the state of New York. Public relations wise, I don't think anybody looked good in this one. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm going to look for comments before I move on to the next one, but nobody ended up looking good. You could see that it was stressing the system. They try to do gag orders, and Trump doesn't obey the gag orders. They penalized him $5,000. He doesn't really care. He does it anyway. He showed up every day with press and his lawyers, and they spent more time actually in front of cameras talking about what they think happened in the courtroom than actually doing anything in the courtroom. Okay, besides interrupting and trying to try a case that already had a verdict on it, and we were just doing damages. But they showed up well after the fact. Here's the thing. Had they actually submitted enough contra on the evidence beforehand, there wouldn't have been a summary judgment. All right. There's a little bit in these lawyers that they're not doing stuff ahead of time, and they think they could just come in after the fact and contest everything because they didn't pay attention or they didn't apply their efforts to preventing the snowball. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sitting here with my mouth open going, I don't get it. Like it's a totally different strategy. Just coming after the fact and We'll call First Amendment and presidential prosecution, political prosecution, and this, that, and the other thing. We'll call it whatever, and that works in campaigns, in one man shows, but it doesn't work in the legal system really well. Except for to muck it up and slow it down, which it was very successful in doing, and still is. All right, I'm just gonna go through and just see. Oh, thank you for posting the bingo card, Liam. It is true crime. It will have all of that, except for it probably won't have any murder, or any, like, except for the fact that, like, I feel murderous after reading all these documents a little bit. I shouldn't really say that, but it does get me credit. It does make me crazy. Now that True Social is publicly trading, their books show a profit of 4.1 mil with losses over 58 mil. That's not very good at the IPO. No, it's not. And I read that this morning, Gene, and I was like, no wonder he's grumpy, because he really thought that, he was doing this deal, and he really thought that this deal was going to really help him with some of these fines and all, and he really lucked out. That was very favorable to Trump. For them to actually lower the amount that he had to put in there for appeal before the assets would be seized. Because remember, the whole part of the trial, they know where they all are. All the assets are listed already. They've got the court justice over there watching the overseas of everything. Nothing can change it. I mean, it would be pretty easy to seize. It's just a matter of following through. They have everything. Of one note, Letitia James did file motions against them, the defense attorneys in Trump, for after the judgment for changing the addresses on several of the businesses to Florida, and they got busted doing that through the court judge that is actually looking over all of the transactions that happens in the Trump organization in New York, and they got busted out cold on that one. Like, that's not going to help. It's not going to help. That's all you need, right, lawyers? You need to be tied into a conspiracy case with Trump. Like, are you looking for one of those? Like, he's got a couple of those coming up that we're going to be talking about. But I guess these lawyers in the New York civil case, like Alina Haba and Keese, like, I guess they think that, why not? Alina Haba already has $1 million sanction on her. Like, she need more? Anyway. Hey, Rocky Couch. And Liam says to Jean, and yet an early rush to buy has artificially inflated the stock. Big crash on the way. Exactly. And he's already lost. And so I don't even know if that 4 million is going to hold, Liam. I'm glad you said that. About the case, the bank doesn't care because they did not lose, but every other investor and customer of the bank lost. Exactly. What about all the other banking customers that have to follow the rules? All right. Or you're $1,000 short on your evaluation, so you don't get the loan. But Trump gets the lies through his teeth and nobody even looks or cares. He can commit fraud. Like, the disparity, like the what hypocrisy. It really makes them look bad. And the fact that they went in there like it was no big deal and said, well, prosecution was ready for them. They said, okay, that's how you treated Trump, but what's your standard protocol? And it was different. It's against the law. Yeah. The crime, as usual, with these rich gifts was against the poor. It is. It's against everybody else that actually follows the rules, No political statements. That's a hard one. I think, yeah. The drop has been, I think that's why they're recording the losses so fast, Liam, in regards to True Social right now. Jin says, too bad the judge hearing the motions today didn't say, I grant your motion, April Fool's. For which case? Murdaugh? Like the Murdaugh judge going, it's April Fool's. Like, hello, Alex Murdaugh. Now I'm going to give you 40 years for all of this fraud that you committed, all of these crimes, 22 different, so many crimes that he pled guilty to. and then at the end and say, "Oh, but suspended sentence," and then wait till he's all happy, and then go, "Well, April Fools, you're going away. Like, goodbye." Goodbye. And for Trump also, like, yeah, it's down to 175 million. April Fools, give me 464. Yeah. True. Appeal isn't tied to any other judgments, but the appeal doesn't put any fines or incarceration on hold. Exactly. That's in New York. And you know, Gene, you know the New York. Like, and yet they're out there and in writing putting that everybody's stopping them from appealing what he feels is a wrongful verdict in fine and penalty. And he's being wronged against here, there, and there, and he's absolutely misrepresenting it. He could appeal without paying the money. It just like what he's worried about is his assets. He wanted to freeze them going after his assets. Yup, half truths, twisted half truths, Liam. Absolutely. And it's a woman overlooking the transactions. That should really their Trump golfs. Well, yeah, get their Trump golf. their, Jen, don't start. But yes, I get it. Burn his butt. Exactly. Because, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That I wanted to get her name. It's Barbara, who is overseeing the Trump org transactions in New York. Yeah, the monitor. Her name was this judge that is monitoring. I just wanted to find her name. Barbara Jones. Why didn't I not? Such an easy name to remember, Jones. Barbara Jones. She's a retired federal judge and she's overseeing the Trump organization's finances, and she has been since November of 2022 as part of the preliminary injunction when the evidence, after years of investigation, hit the judge's table as a case. And there was just too much there that the jury didn't even have to decide. Okay. Just on the damages that was due to the state. So everything that they do is still the Judge Barbara Jones, retired Judge Barbara Jones, is the overseer in everything that they do. She gets a record of it. You guys okay if we stay in New York today? Because there's two other cases that I could do that relate to the New York law and what's going on. We could talk about, I want to talk a little bit about E.G. and Carroll. We do know the verdicts there. We could just talk a little bit about what happened there. But then I would like to get into the New York criminal case that's coming up on the 15th. Because that's hot right now. So unless you guys have one of the other three, which would be the Georgia election case with Fannie Willis and Judge McAfee, and or Jack Smith and Judge Chaikin in the offenses against the U.S. government in election interference, which is like kind of the same as Georgia, but it's on a federal level with Special Prosecutor Jack Smith and Judge Tanya Chutkan. And then there would also be Mar-a-Lago with Judge Aileen Cannon, okay, and the prosecutor, of course, Jack Smith, special prosecutor, and that would be about the classified documents case, which is criminal. Yeah. Well, I'll go with whatever you guys want to go with. No one else gets to pay less to ensure the seizure of assets, but this shithawk does and still acts like a martyr. Exactly. And you know what, Liam, what really gets me? At the same time, he's saying that everybody's going against him and he's being treated differently than everybody else. I have to agree with him. Yes, he is. He's actually getting preferential treatment. Everybody's acting kid's glove and being so careful and bending over backwards to make sure they're not accused of pushing on him because they don't like him or there's not his politics or whatever, that he's actually benefiting from preferential treatment, because those lawyers and the disgraceful way that they acted in these courtrooms over the last 3-4 months that I've been watching, they would be sanctioned to heck. and back. Okay, they're all being so careful to the point where the gag orders, the judges don't even list themselves or the prosecutors because they're the public figures that are going against the accused, and they feel that they've got to take it on the chin if he's going to have something to say about it. Rightfully so. I think that's a little give or take there. And they're trying to say string for like, you can say anything you want about us, about the judge, and about the prosecutor, but leave their families alone. Leave the law clerks and the personnel they went after people in that worked for the judge, that were in the court system itself, anybody they can that they think that has anything to do with anything else political. If you said something 10 years ago about Trump, like if they looked in my back files and saw all the stuff I've called them in the last 10 years, I couldn't sit on that jury. Mm-mm. No, no, no. I know it. I would be too prejudicial. Okay. But this is what they're doing. They're digging up all of this stuff from people. Like if they say one little thing, like the judge's daughter, the judge's law clerk, they're allowed to have opinions. Okay. It doesn't mean it's a prosecution. Like they're acting like the whole world has organized against him. Like the FBI, the CIA, every single county, every single level of the judges, in the clerks, in everybody who works in the system. If you weren't on his team, you're against him, right? It's ridiculous. It really is. All right. There were motions heard in Der Trumpkopf's criminal fraud. Yes, I heard that. I heard that today. Yup. All right. I agree, Rocket Couch. If you're playing bingo, this particular episode of Political Review is about the Trump legal cases, so it is like true crime. I just used a different let's just say I just used a different intro in a different thumbnail. Well, yeah, Jen, that's a whole mess. Liam says staying in New York sounds good. Okay, let's stay in New York then. All right, let me just jump back. Let me do a real quick on Eugene Carroll, real quick on what's going on there. Because, let me get this up. Man, there's so many pages here. Woo. Okay. This will be quick, and then we'll go to New York. The other criminal case that's going to be soon. Okay. All right. Take this off. All right, I'm going to real quickly just do the overview. Okay, there were two civil cases with Eugene Carroll and Trump, and they were based on the facts that the statements were made in 2019 and in 2022. At one point, one of the statements was made while he was president, okay, during like some kind of speech and stuff like that, and he took a barrage on that. It all started in 2019, though, and she came out and she was doing her book and she was doing her interviews, and he came out and he called her a liar for her saying that he attacked her in a department store against her will, assaulted her. She called it rape. The way that the law was written in New York, the jury put it down to like sexual assault without consent, with that, because they couldn't. Here was the defining factor. They could not tell if he had violated her with a finger or a penis. And so the law says it had to be a penis to be off. So they went with the other one because there was a little bit of doubt there. But they did say that the assault happened. There's no doubt that they said the assault happened. That's a conviction there. That's guilty. The judge went forward. That all happened in the ones for 2022. There was many appeals. Donald Trump and his defense team are still trying to claim presidential immunity, that anything he said during his presidency is covered by presidential immunity. The Supreme Court actually backed that back down because they said, was he actually acting as the president when he's attacking a person about a private matter? No, they said they didn't have enough information with his actual responsibilities as a president, like how that would actually fit into what his actual defamation was, in calling her a liar, being abusive, doing all of that. Like, how did that fit in? And they weren't even going to go there. They sent it right back down to the state court to do again, which denied all of the motions of immunity in the civil trial. There has been in civil here in New York. They have said presidential immunity does not stand for the charges that he has against him. They were not acts. He was not performing an act of presidential duty when he defamed E. Jean Carroll. All right. So that went through. There was also in both cases from 2019 and 2022 statements. There were summary judgments that were partial. They said based on the documentation of what he said and how he said it and how often he said it, and they had all that proof that he did defame her. And in both cases, all the jury had to do was come up with how much E. Jean Carroll would get. So in the first case, they said, I believe it was 5 million. Okay. The second case, which was the one that was waiting to come through the Supreme Court on the immunity issue, because he was president at the time, actually was set for trial on January 24th of 2024, which we just had recently, and it's all been resolved. But also of note on this case that after the summary judgment of 5 million came through, and then the jury convicted him and said he, guilty of this civil defamation and assault, $5 million award to E. Jean Carroll, Trump took to the airwaves and defamed her again, live, right after the verdict, on the campaign trail. Everywhere he went, he did it again and again and again. So E. Jean Carroll amended her complaint for the second part of the lawsuit, which was actually the first part of the lawsuit that happened in 2019, to say he's still doing it, blah, 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 and with more documentation on all of that. So just basically piled on, just added, more and more. All right. Whack job. Trump tried to sue her. All right, here's a nice thing. After the $5 million were awarded for the 2022 comments, okay, and he goes and he calls her a whack job. He then files a counterclaim against E. Jean Carroll because they didn't find him guilty of rape. So he said because she called it rape, he defamed her, and that got tossed from the court because it was just a matter of a word in the law. Which, by the way, that law got amended. Yay! Like that was good to see that. It should, because that was redundant. Motion to stay was dismissed and denied repeatedly. Again, like I said, summary judgment. All right. Oi. All right. So, Trump didn't look happy. Trump came to the second. Trump never showed up to the first law case. The civil suit went through. The jury went. He lost $5 million. It's in appeal, but he had to pay. He has to pay the money to do the, or they get to collect. So he's put it all a bond. But either way, he did come to the second, and it was a little contentious. But Judge Kaplan, he wasn't having it. He told him he had to not do statements again. He couldn't defend himself that he wasn't this or that because all they're talking about was compensation here, and he had to answer questions from his lawyers. Okay, the same. Judge Kaplan was trying very hard to be patient. Donald Trump, it appeared during a lot of the statements that were made from those journalists that were inside the courtroom that they really were trying to rile up these judges when they were he was going in and going to hit the stand and stuff like that. He was not very happy. He sat at that desk and he made statements. He said things to the people on the stand. He complained loudly so that the jury could hear him about the unfair political process, that this was political persecution and they're just picking on him because they don't want him to run for president. He's saying that at the defendant's desk, and he's not listening to the judge telling, the lawyers are saying, please get your client under control. No, nobody's doing it. Okay. It was very contentious. The interactions between the defense attorneys and the judges have not always been very pleasant. They look antagonistic sometimes, not always on the judges' side. I mean, they start out reasonable, and then you can just see them they're just getting tense all around their eyes, and it's kind of wearing. The amount of disrespect for actual just procedure. They don't have to respect them as people, whatever. Of course, he's upset because he's got all these lawsuits. Of course, he's going to be disgruntled and feel a little persecuted. Anybody would. But to think the whole system is just out to get you just because you want to run for president, I actually think it's the other way around. How about you just want to run for president to try to keep your ass out of all this trouble you got yourself into? Like, all of this has been coming for 30 years. And people that have not followed this story and seen the rise of Donald Trump, like, just don't get it. Like, it's not that they don't like Donald Trump, it's that Donald Trump thinks he's above all the rules and the laws. And it's not fair. And he's pissed a lot of people off about it. And eventually that all comes down around your head. And it ain't because you're running for president. It ain't because somebody might be a Democrat or somebody might be a Republican. How about focusing on what the real legal issues are here? You know, it looks more like he's running for president to keep his ass out of jail than it is anything else, than anybody prosecuting him to keep him from being president. Because let's be honest, this is all free press for him. This gives his whole campaign something to ride on. It's actually helping him run for president. Like, I want to see that in emotions. Like, somebody hire me as a consultant to write that for the prosecution. Let's just change the game plan here. Let's look at it for what really is. We're helping him with all of this because we feel that the law needs to be obeyed and all of this. We're giving him some platform to ride on, and everybody just wants to eat it up like sugar off a spoon, that he's being persecuted in some way. You know, it's just not right. It's not the way I see it. And it's not because I'm not a Republican or I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. It's actually how I see it. It actually benefits him. All this promotion of the trials and stuff. All us YouTubers out here talking about him. Anybody in journalism, the channels that are doing all of this, you know, they're helping him getting this message out here that he's being prosecuted. And so he turns prosecution into persecution. It's an easy spin. Yeah. The verdict on January 26th for the second part of E. Jean Carroll's case. The jury said that E. Jean Carroll was awarded compensatory $7.3 million for other than reputation repair program, and then a reputation repair program of $11 million. But here's the kicker: punitive damages of $65 million. Totally unexpected. Totally unexpected. It is absolutely, it just blew me away. The other one was only $5 million. But then when it got to this part and saw all the loopholes that he went through for this, that he did it when he was acting as president, he continued to do it from that day forward, and then he was still doing it in 2022. I think this jury said, oh, really? You didn't stop? Like, you just got penalized from another jury that said you were guilty, said you did it, and then you went out there and repeated it all over again and did the same thing. I can just imagine how that jury felt. Can you just imagine? Oh my gosh. Anyway, Trump posted a $91.6 million bond to cover the defamation verdict in favor of writer E. Jean Carroll. He began the appeal of the case that arose from his branding her a liar for her accusing him of raping her decades ago. The bond was from Federal Insurance Co., part of Insurer Chubb, which would cover Carroll's $83.3 million judgment if Trump were to lose his appeal on the January 6th verdict and refuse to pay, because there are about 2,900 cases of Trump's failure to pay vendors, etc., vendors, partners, employees, etc., etc., etc. Yes, yeah. Don't push me, people. When I say there's a 30-year history on Trump, like, there's a 30-year history on Trump, and like, when Trump goes out there and says, "I've never been sued like this before. This is persecution," perhaps he forgot about the 4,000 lawsuits that were filed with him, by him, and against him prior to him running for president. No, I'm not making that figure up. You can Google it. 4,000. No kidding. Nope. Last May, a different judge had ordered Trump to pay Carroll $5 million, a different jury rather, same judge, over a similar October denial, finding he had defamed and sexually abused her. Trump is appealing that decision, and he did set aside the $5.5 million in cash with the Manhattan court for that process. So he's got a bond on the second one, and he actually put up this 5.5 million. But that's so that's a $91.3 billion bond in 5.5 million. Like, he's already out on these cases, 96, almost 97 million. Yeah. And he owes 464 million to the state. Like, this is his money is not like his money is trickling away. The bonds would cover Carroll's judgments if Trump were to lose either of both his verdict appeals and refuse to pay. The posting of the bonds also means that Carroll, who's 80, will not collect on the judgments during the appeals process, which again could take years. And this part, I think, is not fair. This woman was very brave in taking a social beating on the internet and in the media for bringing these charges forward after 2019. The Adult Survivors Act helped because she was able to make the assault charge. Okay. But if you have a personal story like that and it happened to you, you should be allowed to tell it. And she wrote a book and he called her a liar, and she's allowed to prove that it was true. And so I'm glad there was that adult survivor loophole of a year or a year waiting gap before the finalization of the laws and stuff that allowed her to bring up old accusations that may not have survived the statute of limitations in the state of New York. And so that was a benefit to her. But at 80 years old, like with him doing all of these appeals and denying, he's just hoping she never gets a penny. And he has said this in the social medias, kind of akin to Alex Jones when he pumped on his chest the day after the verdict for the Sandy Hook parents and everything, where he owes billions, that they wouldn't see a penny because he would go bankrupt and he would foreclose and he would do this and he would make sure that he tied everything up. Now, the judges have gone against Alex Jones and far as bankruptcies to say, nope, they're still going to get money. Like, you can't decide during the bankruptcy where that money goes. And we know what you're trying to do. And so some of this money that he owes to the Sandy Hook victims is not going to go away just because of the bankruptcies. Nope. And these won't for Trump either. A lot of these were personal. Now, some of this money is owed by others in the cases. The New York civil case for fraud had multiple people, Trump being the large one in the organizer in Trump's organization. They all have different amounts of the penalty that are due to them. And if you go into Judge Engeron's a ruling on it, is 92 pages, and I do believe I listed it in the description, and you can read it, because he really went in on the New York civil. And then Judge Kaplan, he went in on them too here. He said, for all of your boistering and falsification, just a simple common sense of could you just stop talking about it? Would have been prudent. Would have been prudent. Okay. Oops, sorry for the big white. Here we go. All right, so that's all that. Let me just check for questions on Eugene Carroll. Okay, it looks like, okay, well, congratulations on your bingo, Liam. Okay. What sucks is people respect Trump's rights while he respects nobody's rights. This is true. It's kind of like when he's like that whole special treatment thing in persecution. It really gets me because of all the preferential treatment he is getting and how he absolutely has no respect for anyone involved in the system whatsoever. It's really, it's disheartening. He could not shut up, muttering under his breath so loud that the jury heard. Exactly. He was very disruptive. I mean, he was embarrassing. Yeah. The gag order, which should also apply to how he has spoken about the judge's daughter, that cannot be hidden under political speech or duties of the Republican candidate for president. Exactly. How is that doing your campaign? you are just doing self-justification there. And basically, there was a new order today. DA Braggs, I saw this morning that last night a filing came through that he was asking Juan Merchant, who's the Judge Juan Merchant, who is the judge for the New York criminal case for fraud and abuse of business documentation. That's the one where the basically what they have is several payments that were made that were funneled through the Trump organization and listed at things that they weren't, like, and committing some type of fraud that way in regards to how they reported how they moved this money back. And basically it was for articles, it was payments to news media that were to contact people to do articles, but then never produced the stories. And so they were just trying to bury stuff. It was money to Stormy Daniels. It involves Michael Cohen, who's already served time in regards to this and is now actually going to be a witness against Donald Trump in this case. And there's been much contention there. He has actually served his time and he admits what he did wrong, but that doesn't mean everybody else is right. Like, he's allowed to say they were in on it. I did this with them. This is what they did. But they think that just because, like, he was committed guilty of it, that he can't speak on it. But they were all involved. Like, they're failing to see that it's all one, like, great big picture. Like, the way they try to go at each other, it is very contentious. And it's hard to listen to because I really don't think that it's a good light to see Michael Cohen speaking so much about it right now, too, knowing that he's going to be a witness in this case. Let me pull up the case that we're talking about. Then I'm going to jump right into New York criminal. I do want to answer Mark's question, though, about my computer fund. My computer is being built by my good friend who offered me the most fantastic deal to where I had to pay for some upgrades, but I can afford the good computer, like a really, really good computer right now, Mark. I was able to take the funding that I gathered over the year, okay, and that will pay for most of the shipping and the few parts that I needed to get to do a whole new system. And the system is being built and put together. I have some things that I have to mail off, some parts that I have to mail off to be added to it. But it should only be a couple of months, like between them doing it and mailing. Like, it's going from one country to another. It's an out of country deal, which is slowing it up a little. But I could not afford the kind of computer I'm going to get if I just didn't get this upgrade deal from this person who was upgrade, and I don't want to say their name without them without their permission, but they were upgrading their own computer system and they built their own computers and they offered me like most of a really good system, and that I just had to upgrade a few parts like video card stuff and power supplies and things like that and RAM. And so it's good news, Mark. That I would say within the next few months, I would say by summer that should be up and running, and hopefully I get a little bit of video expertise back under my belt and can start doing some more progressive stuff on the channel. But thanks for asking, because I am excited about that, and that's good news. And it did give me a little bit of break on this, like, talking about Trump. Thank you. I'd settle for an office that isn't a disaster area. Oh, where I'm streaming from right now looks pretty much like a disaster area, Aaron. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. You'll take the big white as a tech issue? That would be, because I forgot to bring it down before I skipped to the spacer. That's a spacer. I will make better spacers now that happened. Yeah. Finally got that RAM downloaded. No, I actually bought cards I have to ship to him. He has stuff. He has the download for his computer, but I actually have to ship all this. This is the actual components, the cards, actually. Yeah. You've been trying to download a new CPU. You guys are playing with me, right? Because you can't download the RAM. Those are units. They go in the like you guys are messing with me, aren't you? Because no. All right. Let me go back to DA Braggs. Let's get back to New York. Can you hear my little fingers? Like, oh, whoa, there is so much here. Here he is. Hey, you've met him before. This is DA Alvin Braggs in New York, Southern District of New York. This criminal case, yes, I said the word criminal. This will be the first criminal trial against the president, an ex-president that we have filed against, like here in New York. Yep, this is president sitting, and this is the first criminal case that Trump is coming up against. It was filed in March of 2023 from the Manhattan DA, Alvin Braggs. Oh, I said Southern District of New York because I'm so used to saying it, but he is from Manhattan. Sorry about that. The judge in this case is Juan Merchant. Motion to recuse was denied because the first thing that Trump did and his defense team, when I say Trump, I mean him and his defense team, as a strategy, attacked the judge because his daughter said some stuff a while back, and she's an activist and she's a Democrat. Okay. And yeah, nope. All right. Trial was set tentatively for March 24th, 2024. This was a while back, okay? Because this is my update from the first time that we were discussing these cases quite a few months ago. This is for falsified business records. Michael Cohen case. This is like all related to Michael Cohen. He's already like that part of it, all convicted. He served his time. He's getting out on his parole. There are 34 felony counts of the New York Penal Law 175.10 for falsifying business records in the first degree. And this is all in regards to the $130,000 that was paid out to Stormy Daniels. Okay. Trump had signaled that he would go after the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, weeks before the grand jury handed up an indictment against him, saying in pugilistic posts on Truth Social that the prosecution was purely political and accusing Bragg of being a psychopath. He also has attacked Judge Merchant repeatedly. And currently, you see what's going on with him continually naming Judge Merchant's daughter, now putting where she works, putting her at risk. This has been a real bone of contention here. This is New York State Supreme Court Justice Judge Juan Merchant. He's all business. He is trying not to be flustered. When he did the gag order, which he did at the beginning of this month, it was on March 25th, Judge Juan Merchant refused to further delay the trial start date. That was in the hearing that happened last week, which had been set for April 15th. Listen, what happened was, okay, I kid you not. Let me just put this scene out. We have the defense, we have the prosecution, we have a pretrial hearing, right? We have a court date of April 15th. We're supposed to come in and talk about issues that are left in regards to evidence and motions that have to all be settled before we set a jury up and, we go forward. Well, defense tried to bring forward a motion that says, because they didn't request records from the FBI until January 9th of 2024, and then received thousands and thousands of papers a week ago or so in regards to their information in the Michael Cohen case, in regards to all of this in the investigation, that they needed more time and it should be pushed because it's the prosecution's fault, because the prosecution didn't hand this all over to them in 2023. Okay, so I don't know who they thought that they were talking to. Okay. But Judge Juan Merchant was not having it. He said, "Excuse me, can you show me the precedent or case to where the prosecution is responsible for you to do your due diligence in finding the records that could help support your client's case?" The prosecution did not ask for those records because they didn't need them, because they had their case. And you want the records for Michael Cohen's stuff in the investigation? You got all that. And the prosecution came back and said, "Judge Merchant, listen, of those 4,000 records that they say they got, only 300 of them, maybe 300 pages would be unique because they are actually just FBI kind of stuff. But none of it is new to the case. And none of it is anything that's going to prevent a defense or aid the prosecution in any manner that way. And they aren't records that prosecution had on file as evidence. So under discovery, they had no obligation to send anything over to defense. So basically, what Judge Juan Merchant reminded the defense is no one is responsible to represent their client and do their due diligence except for them. They're not going to get a delay on the trial because they waited until January in a case that was filed in April of 2023 that they knew was involving Michael Cohen from the start. It's in the indictment. You wait until 2024, January, to file for the records and then cry to the court that you don't have time to catch up because there might be something in there, a needle in the haystack that's going to save your ass. If you really thought there was something in there, you should have got that records before. This was ridiculous. But I loved the way Judge Merton didn't play either side. He was like, let the prosecution, and he said, "In art, did you use any of this information?" Like, what is like he did, and he found out the case that they had no responsibility to turn this over, and he threw it out. They're not going to delay this trial. All right. When it comes to this trial, a lot of people are saying when the indictment got filed in 2023, okay, everybody was up against Alvin Braggs. They said this is ridiculous. Of all the cases you could file, this is what you want to bring against Trump. This flimsy, he slept with a stripper and then tried to hide it, like because he had a campaign. Like this is ridiculous. Okay, well, really, the legality of it isn't. It is fraud. He did do the wrong thing. Okay, and I don't think they would have brought the charge if he didn't keep trying to cover it up. Like a little bit of accountability here. We already have a black and white case with Michael Cohen guilty, okay? And now coming to testify, knowing he was guilty, doing his time, and coming to say, like, this is what I was guilty of, and this is what happened, and this is how it happened. It shows where the laws were actually broken and who was involved in it. And it was the same accountants and record keepers in Donald Trump that is involved with the fraud that's already been proved in New York through Letitia James's case. Okay, these people just don't want to follow the rules. Okay, you know, a lot of people, like it says here in my slide, I've seen a lot of people actually, size these up to like what happened with Al Capone. Al Capone was a gangster and a murderer and a really, really bad guy, an awful businessman. He went against the law. It hurt so many people. But what did they get him on? Tax evasion, because that's what they could get him on. But it's not that he didn't deserve it. But it wasn't really why he was an infamous villain, is it? Is he infamous, Al Capone, for being like the best tax evader in the world? Well, he's one of the most famous ones. And he's convicted on tax evasion, and he went to jail for it. But that's not exactly why he was a villain. It's kind of same. That's what people were kind of like sizing this up to. Okay. That this case alleges behavior that didn't directly attack elections or put national secrets at risk makes it feel more minor because there was so much else going on. We had January 6th. We had election fraud. We have all this other stuff. I mean, Georgia is actually adding a racketeering RICO conspiracy on top of the whole thing. This is big. This, they're saying, not so. But Alvin Bragg stuck to his guns. He's bringing it forward, and he does feel that he can push it forward because you do have the Michael Cohen conviction. It is for the same things. Alan Weissman has already given testimony in all the other cases that he can't take back on how things were done and how they did them and his arrangements and all. He does have to testify also. We've got the same bad players from other guilty charges that have to actually testify in this case. All right. They think it's minor because, like the other cases, have set a grossly higher standard for what constitutes gravity. How bad it is. Because, like, the other cases just have so much more meat to them as far as what is wrong. And, well, this one could be possibly the one that goes. Well, There was a gag order issued on March 26th by John Bertrand because the prosecutor put forward all of the stuff that Trump was putting out there against everybody in the court system. They were worried about the jury. Each judge in these cases has put in gag orders to protect the jury because, like, the defense has gone so far as to try to get the grand jury testimony so they could get the witness lists of the grand jury so they could start tearing these people up. Like, no. Like, any name that they get ends up coming through a Trump tweet and getting harassed in some way. And Trump's defense team has actually brought forward motions that say that Mr. Trump, ex-President Trump, could not possibly be responsible for what other people do with what he tweets. But inciting riot is a thing. Okay. And in his latest appeal to the court, to Judge Merchant, Alvin Braggs has brought forward as this man is knowingly doing it and knowingly violating what you said. And we need a clear statute that it includes protection for our families, my family and the judge's, like the DA Bragg's family and the judge's family. Because even though DA Bragg knows he's a public figure and it's not going to protect him, and he can take it on the chin. And Judge Juan Merchant is willing to do that too. It comes with the job. They're going to say stuff about you. But it shouldn't involve everybody else around you, not your clerks, not your family, not anybody in the system that's working there, none of the witnesses, not the jury, nobody involved in the case. But what these statements that Trump puts out there do, they put that antagonistic wall there to everyone involved with the case. That makes it very difficult. It makes it an undue burden on them that they can't do it. And it's akin to harassment and intimidation. It's exactly what it is. Let's just call it what it is. It is intentional intimidation. Yeah. And yet none of the judges are going to lock him up. But if anybody else did this and violated the gag order, they would have severe, severe penalties and contempt of court. And if they kept doing it, if you contempt the court once, you get a fine, a warning, a fine, whatever. You do it twice, you might get a bigger fine. You do it the third time, you usually get some time in the slammer because they're allowed to do that. Okay, you're supposed to have a molecule of dignity and respect for the system itself, but you completely go and violate it, and everybody is trying not to look biased so damn hard that they're swinging it the other way. He's getting preferential treatment. He will not. You do not have a constitutional right to intimidate witnesses. That's not constitutional. Our laws protect witnesses. Our laws balance the accused and the accuser's system to where people are protected that have to testify, that have to make the judgments. Okay? That's law. You have no constitutional right to disregard the law without consequences. It's not a constitutional right. Not as far as I've read the Constitutional. It doesn't say in there, do whatever you want, because that's free speech with no recourse. It doesn't say, if I don't agree with the law, I can still do what I want because I'm protected by the Constitution as a free person. No. No. The Constitution is not the only thing that binds our country. It does seem to be the favorite shield, though, to do whatever you want and not have to pay for it. I don't know. Anyway, that was the gag order. Well, since then, okay, this motion to dismiss was denied, again, with strong words from the judge, about this dismissal. And I told you why. Because they were trying to plead that it needs to be tossed out. Not only did they want to delay the trial, they wanted a complete dismissal because the prosecution violated protocol by not giving them this information that they didn't ask for. The defense asked for it on January 9th. Prosecution didn't have it and didn't ask for it. But they got it also because, the defense asked for it, which means it was discoverable, which means they got it also. You don't see the prosecution complaining because they got all that information. Don't. They're ready to go. They're ready to go. Judge Merchant was not having it. He gave it right back to them. He said, and by the way, you gave me this whole big motion. Can you point out in here where you pointed the matter of law as to why this should be overturned? He literally held that lawyer's feet to the fire. Where's the precedent? Show me the case Don't you know how to write a damn motion? No, those are not the things he said. But it was all inferred with the. Could you please point in this motion where the case law is that I should be looking at to why you should be permitted to have this motion to dismiss? Because there's nothing in here. Nothing in there. Love that. Love that, Judge. Nope. DA Braggs filed to clarify recent gag orders after attacks on Judge Merchant's daughter again last night and yesterday and the day before, and requesting sanctions, and asked that how is it right that the families are not protected? Like, he understands, everything else. He also put in there that this man has a long history of it. It is well documented over the last few years of him purposely intimidating people involved with the court cases or anyone that goes against him. DA Braggs went so far in his motions to say these are Donald Trump's own words. Okay? I will go against anybody as hard as I can that is against me. The opposition, there are no rules in how you attack the opposition. He used Donald Trump's own words and own policies over and over again in this filing. It was good. And I'm hoping that I did not see yet. I stopped researching quite a few hours into the day. So if anybody has additional information on what happened today besides that extra filing from DA Braggs, because I think you mentioned it, either Liam or Mark had mentioned it earlier on, but I didn't see exactly what you guys were referring to. Yeah. Take a nap, Shield. It's okay if you're tired. Let me just pull this down for 1 second. I don't want to blind anybody with an. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Aaron says his lighting is all pulled down in covering the couch. Your books are on the floor. You're rebuilding and repaint. Oh, it's going to be nice, though. You got something to look forward to that you're redoing your office. That's cool. Liam, is this because they consider it a dangerous device or something like that? Like, I know someone who just had something shipped. It was a power backup or something, and it had to go through all kinds of special customs and stuff like that. Damn. Okay. They are deliberately trying to taint any and all jurors so they can cry about unfair verdict as they don't actually have any case for the defense. This is true because it is all documented. Forensic accounting is pretty hard to go against because the facts are there, and forensic accounting is usually triple checked into multiple sources and stuff like that. So it would be pretty hard to do it. They're trying to say that the whole case is based on the salaciousness because he had the affair with Stormy Daniels and this, that, and the other thing. No, not exactly. Paying her to shut up was not really illegal. How you paid her and what you did to cover it up, that is the problem. Yes, because all innocent people dox their detractors. Exactly. Harass them, harangue them, threaten them. Yes. Mm-hmm. And he says that the defense actually said in several filings in different cases that Trump should not be held responsible for the things he says on the social medias and what people do about it. And yet every single judge and court has had to get extra security. In actually Fannie Willis had to move out of her home. Okay. Letitia Jones was threatened every day. James, rather, was threatened every day. Family calls. They can't go out. They're harassed, harangued, they're ridiculed. And now they are public figures, so they know that it comes with them. There's always going to be unpopular cases. But for them to deny the fact that Trump doesn't know that that's actually going to be what happens when he speaks on that, and that is not, and here's the thing, they're actually trying to say that's not the motivation. But DA Braggs put out a pretty good brief last night that actually shows that is the motivation. And it is what happens every single time. So for them to deny it is just ridiculous because everybody, and he said, Trump knows what he's doing, and so does everyone else. That's in the brief. Trump knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing when he does this, and so does everyone else. I was happy to read that. And that also, DA Braggs's order is below too. I don't have just the New York case stuff listed down below. I do have the judgments and stuff like that from the key things, but there'll be other stuff down there too, because it wasn't until very late last night that I realized that this particular stream was gonna go for way too long to do all of the cases. So I'm gonna go through for questions. That's the 3 from New York. So if you have any questions in regards to any of those New York cases, let me know. Liam says he has already hit the 1K fines act from judges, and it didn't change a thing. Even millions made no difference. He needs custodial time. You know he does, but I have found that the contempt laws are not that great. I mean, look what happened with Michelle Troconis just recently. She took a confidential filing she couldn't even had, broadcast it to the whole behind her, to the whole courtroom, into the media, hoping the media would pick up on it. And the most that she'll pay is like $1,500 fine and get a couple of months in jail. When she violated 2 court orders, 2 judges sealed those documents. Like, I think those contempt of court charges need to be much more serious, and judges need to move them more often. But in their desire to seem unbiased and fair on all sides, they really are bending over a little backwards here. They're under a lot of scrutiny. There's a bright light on every little thing they do. And every judge on every one of these cases and every prosecutor on every one of these cases knows that everything's going to be going over with a fine-tooth comb. That's a lot of pressure. And you know what that says to me? If they're still willing to do it, there's a belief that there's something really wrong here, that a wrong was done that needs to be right, that somebody has to pay for breaking the law. That somebody just happens to be Donald Trump in these cases. Okay. And just because he's Donald Trump doesn't mean we don't get to prosecute. You know? Donald Trump thinks that if a president gets prosecuted, the whole system's going to fall apart. But that's not true. Donald Trump is not being prosecuted for anything he did acting as a president. He has cases against him, and he's accused. He is the alleged perpetrator of a conspiracy to overthrow an election against the people, fraud against the people, because the people voted for the other party. And he didn't want that to go through. So there's a case for that. Okay. The other thing that he did when he was leaving office is not return documents. But like some of that was taken, I guess, while he was president or whatever. But what he did there is not so much as like, this stuff happens. As we saw, there were a couple of other investigations with other officers of the court, Mike Pence, Joe Biden, just recently. But what they didn't do was lie through their legal representatives about returning the documents. They didn't lie about having the documents. They returned them when requested in full and didn't fight the system. Donald Trump, on the other hand, said, I don't have them. They were in a secure place on the stage in the dining room. There are multiple witnesses reporting that anyone had access to those documents. Donald Trump doesn't care about the security of our country. Donald Trump is really good at giving speeches. And I ask people, start looking at the actions. If you think the Mar-a-Lago documents case is not serious, you're a fool. This is not political prosecution. This is protection for what we hold sacred, our security as people. This has never happened before. You know, I kind of have a personal belief that Donald Trump looked at all those documents as another way of making money. He's not really invested in our country. He's invested in himself. And that might have been going too far for a true crime. But nobody said I had to keep my opinions to myself. Trump's burned through every decent lawyer in New York, Florida, and Georgia. It's like he's correcting state coins. Exactly. He brought Alina Harbour out of his country club here in New York. I mean, in New Jersey. She's a New Jersey attorney, But speaking of, lawyers that have had problems, a lot of lawyers have problems now because of Trump. John Eastman's one of them. He's named as he's an unnamed co-conspirator in the Georgia filing. But California court just said that they think he should be disbarred. They recommend disbarment based on his unapologetic fraudulent use of etc., etc., etc. It's really long, but now it'll be up to the actual bar association to do it. But he's not he's been limited. But did you know that the Republicans in another state just hired him to represent himself in a case? Even after that, they don't care what other judges say. What happened to the rule of law? I don't know. He'd probably hire Chili DeCastro's crap lawyer, but I don't think he has any cases out of Nevada yet. Yeah, Chili's lawyer was actually a little bit ridiculous today. Did you see that, Aaron? Like, Chili, nope, Chili, you don't get out. You're going to have to sit there while you appeal. Good luck. I love the way the judge said, yeah, he'll apologize to me, but that's not what he said online. Like, that's not what he's saying out there. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. It was good. Yeah. And why you would cover it up in this case, because it wouldn't look good to the electorate. Yes, that's why they would cover it up. Yeah, I understand that. Like, but it actually made it look worse, and it just makes it, it made it chargeable. Like, and he did do it, Even 1 week in jail for him would be construed as election interference. Yes, it was. And this is, I think he purposely is running to avoid it and to make it a bigger thing. And as a matter of fact, if all of this wasn't going on, I don't even think he would have been the candidate. Seriously. I know this is not a popular opinion. Everybody thinks he was going to be the candidate no matter what. But I really do think that if these court cases were happening right now, he wouldn't have as strong a voice and loud in people like the sympathy, and he wouldn't, for all of those that want to fight the system, for all of those that think that they're just not getting what they deserve in America, these are the people that stand behind Trump. And anytime he says, "Oh, I'm being persecuted," "Oh, it's not fair," and all like they're all like right for him. They're like, "Yes, brother, yeah, like me too. I got fired from my job," not realizing Trump's the man that he complains about. When Trump says how unfair everything is for all of us, what he's talking about is him making it unfair for all of us. I don't know why more people don't see that, but they will. Acting while being president is not the same as acting as the president, but that distinction is too difficult for his followers or anyone else. I get that. I get that, and I'm not like a supporter. And you know what? And he should be allowed to run. We should also be allowed to prosecute him for crimes that he committed. Okay, he's got criminal cases against him. These aren't all civil. The first couple we talked about were civil. Okay, not even the civil cases went in his defense, and he pays his lawyers a lot of money. But if lawyers were actually doing some lawyering instead of some political maneuvering for the actual election, it would probably go better. Instead of worrying about the bites, making sure they get the airtime, if they actually would do the proper motions and file the precedent and use the law accordingly, it would be. Because in here's the thing, in the criminal suit, they're trying to use civil law case precedent, and that's not going to fly. And vice versa. Like, hey, dot your I's and cross your T's. This sloppy lawyering is just, it's not a good look. It's not a good. And I'm not a lawyer. I just a stark difference. I just guess you know what? It could just be me. I like things a little calmer, a little black and white. I like fireworks in the courtroom. Like, I like to see the different styles and all of that. But I do like to see like good legal law coming up, good legal discussion about, is this what this actually is interpreted as or not? That kind of stuff. Not the ma, he's looking at me again. Ma, Jimmy took my stick. No, not like they're whining and carrying on and everybody's picking on your stuff. No, I want to see some real legal stuff, like real legal jargon, back and forth, and not, a little bit more than this. There are constitutional issues here. No, fraud is fraud. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. Assault is assault, and it has nothing to do with the Constitution. Defamation is a thing, and it has nothing to do with the Constitution. Mishandling of classified documents will cause you to lose your clearance. How could their Trump ever be cleared for one again? Because remember what he did to the clearing policy while he was president, Jin? Do you remember how Jared and them, they didn't have to get cleared? Because the president can just check the box. Yeah. He can clear himself, make it non-mandatory. There's already suspicion he showed some of the documents to guests in order to appear more important. There's actually a taped conversation of him bragging about stuff like this, showing parts of the Ukraine. Yeah, it's part of the evidence. It was shown in the January 6th hearings, which anybody who's interested in any of that, I have all of it recorded on a playlist on my channel. It's not monetized. It was done for informational and educational purposes. Call me a left winger, call me whatever you want, call me, Democrat. I do lean a little more Democratic, but I am an independent. Like, and I just thought it was important to have out there. And that is part of the evidence here, and that we heard at that point. Oh, and he was talking to Sidney Powell at the time. Yes, smart move, stating that he thought the judge gave Chile a stiffer sentence because of his conduct in court. That's what contempt sentences are for. Exactly. She said I could have gave him 180 days to run after it instead of concurrent, like to run 60 and 6. She could have two 180-day sentences, which would have been a year in jail, had she wanted to, just based on what he did with the cops. And she slapped him back good, Aaron, and I was happy to see it. I was. That judge, yeah, that judge was awesome. I liked her today. It is definitely a big motivation for him, but his ego would have had him run, whether or not he would be polling so high without these cases to harp on about is an interesting dilemma. It is. But I am of the I am leaning towards that many people are right that we may have actually bolstered his campaign more by these going forward. And that doesn't put the blame on any of them. They've got to do their jobs. The justice system has a totally different job than presidential elections. Okay? They're not supposed to be worried about who's a Republican and who's a Democrat and who's running for office. Their job is to uphold the law, to investigate, and to bring charges forward when things are wrong, to protect the people. They work for us. Remember? Yeah. The justice system works for us, regardless of who voted them in, regardless of who appointed them. The justice system is supposed to work for us. Hey, Mip. All right. Well, you know what, guys? If you don't have any more questions, I'm a bit talked out with 3 cases. Could I just ask you to weigh in on one thing for me? Do you prefer to finish the other 3 cases tomorrow night or Wednesday? I have a Scientology update coming out too. In like I was thinking that It would be better to do part 2 of this tomorrow so that it's more concise. It would be at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, though, at the regular true crime and legal update time slot. And then I'll follow up Wednesday, Thursday with Scientology, probably Wednesday, because I want to make sure the end of the week is clear in case they sit that jury and start with opening statements on the Daybell trial out of Idaho. How long before there are campaign fund fraud charges against their Trump coffee? That's a good question. Um, I'm sure that not this year. I'm sure after the fact, after the election is run, the campaigns are closed, and these trials are settled. I'm sure there will be some looking into that, because when he comes under crunch for money, remember, we've got like the judge, the actual overseer of the Trump organization in New York, Barbara Jones. She's keeping an eye on stuff like that, and they did already try to move some money out of there without advising her of it, and she nailed them on that. And they changed addresses on businesses, and she got them on that. Um, I'm sure that they're watching for it. I'm sure that if anything comes up, you see, the one thing is he squawks so much that you wonder what he's hiding. And he's trying to like threaten and bully so that nobody looks at anything too close, because to actually to go against him is a hard thing because of the barrage that you deal with. Like you could have everything to rights, and that you're right, you got it all down here, and they're gonna pull everything out and come at you. In that's why I say these judges deserve a lot of credit for what they're having to pull up with right now. You know, I've got some interesting things in the next three cases that are coming up too, especially in the one with the judge, uh, Judge Cannon out of Florida on the documents case. Judge Chutkin, there was some interesting movement there, and we're waiting on that. But mostly, in Judge McAfee in Georgia has been in a uh, mm, quite a difficult position right now. Like, he's running for an office as we speak. He's got a very hot case here. He's going up against political opponents. He has some monkey wrenches thrown in about prosecutorial misconduct and the way things leaked, and there were some changes to the indictment too. But we're going to go over all of that at the next one. Uh, Liam says, yeah, make it consecutive to keep it fresh. That I'll do. I'll go and change this thumbnail to just say part 1 across the judges, and then I'll make another one that says part 2 so we can keep them straight. But if you guys don't have any more questions, I think I will wrap that up. And I thank you for listening. Oh, it's not easy listening to all of this about a case. And I am. If you think of any questions about any of these 3 New York cases, that would be the New York civil case for fraud that Letitia James, the prosecutor, brought against Trump, that has been settled. In the bond has been done and is in appeal. In the E. Jean Carroll, either one of those cases, although it's actually one big case divided into sections, he was guilty of defamation in assault there, and had to also put up a bond, and is appealing both of those verdicts also as we go forward. And then we've got the ongoing case with hearings in the active gag order discussion that's going on, that's hot all over the internet right now, about whether or not those. Here's a question I want to leave you with. Do you feel the defendant, Donald Trump, has a right to attack the family members of anyone involved in the case, and that includes the judge or the prosecutor, knowing that the judge and the prosecutor know that they are exempt from that gag order as far as him talking about them? They keep themselves out of it. They're not even saying he can't talk about them. But is it a violation of that gag order to speak against their daughters or their children because of their family for whatever reason? Trump says he's just attacking political opponents, and he'll keep doing it. And that if you tell him not to do it, that just means that it's political interference. It's election interference. It's campaign interference. you're trying to silence him because this is a platform he wants to run on. He wants to run on the platform of Juan Merchant's daughter in her political views. I don't know. I'd like to know what you guys have to say about it. Anybody listening later, if you're here and you want to hit the back of the video with what you think about that, I'd really like to know, because me, like, it's a good question. And that's where we are with the gag order right now. That's where we are with the gag order. I'm proud of Alvin Bragg for putting together such a richly worded motion late last night to try to prevent further intimidation of witnesses or people involved in the cases. It can't be easy for anyone. But with all of this harassment going on, just imagine being picked for a jury in New York right now. Yeah. It makes it difficult for the process to happen when there's intimidation and harassment going on. And that's the other side of the coin we have to look at. The judges have to weigh, and so do the courts, the Supreme Court, everybody, the appeals court, they have to weigh in both sides. They're not for or against either one. They have to weigh the opposition in the pros on both sides as a matter of law, as a matter of where it settles with the law in the interpretation of the law, period. It's like the bully who is told by the teacher to stop poking the kid on the next table, who then just stabs his finger in the air, but complains the teacher can't chastise them because he didn't touch the kid again. True, just finding a loophole, but still going against flagrantly going against what you've been told not to do any way that you can, with disrespect. Like, I get it. That's probably the part that bothers me the most, And people will say, don't get your panties in an uproar. People, it's just words, Nope. This actually has been proven to interfere with the process. Okay. It does interfere with the process. It's not just people getting their panties in a wad over it. It's flagrant abuse of the system. Yeah. On that, I'm going to end. You all have a good night. Thank you for being here. And I will see you. Hopefully, I will see some of you tomorrow. And like I said, if you've got questions, please hit the back of the videos or contact me, Oh, that last one. Those words can lead to deeds. And they have, Liam. They have. And made everybody so uncomfortable. They really have. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. And I'll see you tomorrow.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color, not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice, patient, and continue to pray. In 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.